Mark Schlereth, we never forget about him. 3 rings, multiple-time Pro Bowler. So you're in Denver. I was talking to a friend a couple days ago, and I said the one team in the league, free agency, about 35% of them hit, about 65% don't. The one team I absolutely know will be better is Denver. I thought, as a former offensive lineman, I think they've done a good job. How's it landing in Denver?
Oh, I think it's in Denver right now. People are pretty excited about it. And I think, one of the texters to my radio show texted this in, so I can't take credit for it, but he was 100% right. The Denver Broncos have spent $250 million to overcome the $250 million mistake they made last year. It's all about mitigating Russell Wilson and not making Russell Wilson win the game for you. It's getting back to what Russell Wilson does well. It's controlling the line of scrimmage. It's running the ball. It's using multiple tight end sets. It's having a real life fullback. It's about football players. And anytime you talk to Sean Payton and you meet with Sean Payton, he'll sit there and say, man, I like this football player, this football player, this football player. It's not about athletes. And I think one of the things that Sean Payton did was a real evaluation of this roster, like a real football coach evaluation of the roster. And where a lot of people were saying over the last couple of years, oh, this roster is really good. They're only a quarterback away. They're just a quarterback away. I was saying, hey, listen, they've gone after athletes. They haven't gone after football players. And there is a big difference in my mind, Colin. Football is easy for football players. It's really difficult for athletes. And I think that's why you look at the trading block right now. You look at all the receivers on the Broncos, receiving core. All of them are up for trade right now. He is trying to move pieces. He is trying to get real life football players to slow this game down, to condense this game, take some of that pressure off of Russell Wilson.
So the Jets-Green Bay situation is interesting. Aaron's good. He's polarizing, so it's been dominating our show, perhaps not as much today. For years and years, there was this sense that if you were the union leader on your team, it was not good for your career, that the owners had a long memory and many good players, Kevin Mawai, a lot of good guys that were union leaders suddenly didn't get the contract offers. And so, never forget who runs the league. It's the Shield. It's the owners. So Green Bay's got the leverage with the Jets, and they're in absolutely, apparently, no hurry to make a move. Do you think, deep down, they feel marginalized and manipulated the last 2 years, and they're doing this for a reason? They don't have to hurry, and they're going to make Aaron suffer a little.
I don't know that they want to make him suffer, but they definitely want to try to maximize the value. So then you have to ask yourself, what is the value? What is the value in regards to draft picks and potential compensation from that standpoint versus the value of just getting that number off your salary cap? And so, I think the Jets are playing that game like, hey, dudes, you can't carry that number on your salary cap. So eventually you've got to make a deal with us. And we're not going to give you the capital that maybe the Broncos gave a 34-year-old quarterback in Russell Wilson last year, I think 33 at the time, turned 34. But, Rodgers about to turn 40. So I think there's that game of chicken that's being played right now. I think eventually they'll figure out what that fair compensation is. But I just don't think it's the same market from a compensation standpoint in regards to draft picks and players that it was last year for a younger quarterback in Wilson, even though Aaron Rodgers is far more accomplished.
If you were the Packers, I'm the Jets, what would you demand? What do you think is fair value for Aaron? You're the GM of the Packers.
I just don't think you're going to get multiple first-round picks. I think a first-round pick, maybe a player to be named, maybe a third-rounder to go with it. Like that to me feels like that's fair compensation. So I just don't think it's multiple picks for a guy that maybe plays 1, maybe 2 years more. So listen, I'm all in on Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. I think the Jets are a good young football team. I love Robert Saleh, their head coach. I think he gets the most out of his players. They've got a great defense, and they've got some good young offensive talented players. And so I look at this, you push it into the middle. You do what Tampa Bay did. You go out there and you see if you can't win a Super Bowl. I think that's a fair expectation to either compete for that division title or at least be a wild card team and get yourself in this playoffs. But the bottom line is I just think from a compensation standpoint, they're not going to get the haul that maybe Seattle got from Denver last year.
Lamar Jackson, if you look at his last 34 starts, he scored 2 touchdowns per game, 61, and he's 24-12. That's the last 36. So maybe it was 20, whatever the number was. He wins 2 out of 3 games. In a division with Joe Burrow and the always consistent Steelers and Deshaun Watson, I would re-sign him. But it doesn't, I mean, Baltimore's basically saying, kid, go to the market, get an offer. We don't think there's going to be a bidding war. What if there is no bidding war? I'll just ask you, what would you do, GM of the Ravens? What would you do?
Well, I think the Ravens are playing it exceptionally well. They're saying, go out there, see what's out there. You know, if you can get a big-time contract, at least we're going to get compensated for it. But we don't believe the market for you is what you think the market is for you. Now, one thing I do know, the latest report was a 3-year fully guaranteed contract at $133 million, I believe, like 44 and change a year, right? Let me tell you what never happens. Players don't release information and agents don't release information on contracts that they're not planning to sign. So there's always, whenever I hear those numbers, I always say, okay, but what else? Like, what are we not hearing? So what's the fine print say toward the end of that contract or the end? Is there added years? What else is going on that we're not getting? Are there options on that? So I don't know exactly what that is, but I think the Baltimore Ravens are basically saying, hey, man, you've got to understand that the style with which you play has proven not to be a style in which you can stay healthy. The last 2 years, he's played 12 games each year in a 17-game season. I'm no mathematician, but that's missing 5 games. And listen, I look at that style and say, until you can prove that style can win us a championship and that you can stay healthy with that heavy run, quarterback run offense, we're just not going to reward you with one of those Deshaun Watson deals. Not that anybody's going to write another Deshaun Watson deal. I mean, for crying out loud, I think everybody's ticked off at Jimmy Haslam for writing that deal. So, and that's the other thing. Jimmy, like at some point, when you're a billionaire, don't you change your name from Jimmy to James?
Yeah, I think you do.
To grow up a little
Absolutely.
bit. Let's just grow up a little bit and quit giving off those contracts. But the bottom line, I don't think any owner is going to play that game. And I think they're all pissed off at Jimmy Haslam.
Mark Schlereth, multiple rings, multiple Pro Bowls. He's stopping by in Denver. Good. I think Chicago's helped themselves, and the Broncos and the AFC have helped themselves noticeably. Yeah. It's good seeing you, Mark. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.